his comments, man, and he went in and he said, now it's personal. It's just as personal as the Nebraska game was. And now bringing Mama in, it probably makes it even a little more personal. Matt Rule was talking more about transfer portal, different things, but even bringing up, my mom raised me better than yours. That's gonna make it a little more personal. But man, we got Ryan Clark, and he just obliterated this dude. And the fan base too, the people that was clapping in the background. Ryan Clark pointed out they already got blown out this year, and likely going to happen again, especially after these comments. Nobody's going to overlook this game, especially that locker room. Coach Brown won't allow it. Travis Hunter, all those guys are ready to go as well. Let's check out.
President's son has been indicted for lying when buying a gun. I want to bring in NBC's Garrett Hake. Garrett, what can you tell us?
Well, Chris, this indictment just unsealed in Delaware charges Hunter Biden with 3 counts, all related to that gun purchase. It describes 2 counts of knowingly making a false or fictitious statement when purchasing a gun, basically accusing him of lying about being addicted to drugs at the time he was purchasing this weapon, pistol, in October of 2018. And the 3rd count is that he did knowingly possess that same firearm while being addicted to a controlled substance. So these are counts that were all thought to have been dealt with in that plea deal that fell apart a couple of months ago, kicking things back to the U.S. Attorney, now special counsel. Weiss handling this in Delaware, a former U.S. Attorney in the District of Delaware. Again, this indictment unsealed, dealing only with the gun and drug charges. I think it's reasonable to presume we have not heard the last of charges against the president's son, given the scope of what was originally in front of the U.S. Attorney and then kind of fallen apart, back to the drawing board to bring forward these counts now.
Yeah, let me bring in NBC News Justice and Intel correspondent Ken Delaney. And just to pick up where Garrett left off, Ken, this is a direct result of what, frankly, Hunter Biden and his lawyers thought was over and done with. They washed their hands. They had a deal. Clearly, now we have an indictment.
That's right, Chris. And specifically with regard to this gun charge, they had a deal that would have entered Hunter Biden into what's known as a diversion program, where he essentially admitted to the conduct but agreed to comply with certain conditions, including no longer using drugs. And after a period of time, the charges would be dropped. And now instead, he finds himself charged in a 3-count indictment in Delaware. And we don't believe that this is the end of it, because there were also 2 misdemeanor tax charges that were part of that plea bargain, which fell apart, as you said, because the 2 sides could not agree on some key aspects of it. And so we would expect that there would be some kind of additional action on tax charges, whether only misdemeanors or whether having to do with other conduct. Because as you know, there's a whole context here, Chris, where some of the investigators in this case have come forward to Congress and have said that they believe that there's evidence that Hunter Biden committed felonies while evading taxes on millions of dollars of income he was earning from foreign business entities while he was addicted to drugs. So we're waiting to see what happens on the tax charge. And the reason the plea agreement fell apart in principle, Chris, was because at the end of the day, the 2 sides could not agree on whether the agreement held Hunter Biden harmless from any further charges. Because David Weiss, the then U.S. Attorney of Delaware, now special counsel, added a curious sentence at the end of his press release announcing the indictment. He said the investigation is continuing. And when people first saw that, they thought, well, that was kind of throwaway the line that a U.S. attorney sometimes says. Technically, it's really not. This is the end of it. But in fact, he was serious. And they disclosed in court that they continue to investigate, federal prosecutors do, questions about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings and whether there are any issues under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And as soon as Hunter Biden's lawyers heard that, they said, well, wait a second, we have no deal then. Why would we plead guilty if you say you still might charge us on other conduct? And so that's why the deal fell apart. And that is why we are where we are today, Chris.
That is why they are where they are, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just come in. Welcome to another edition of Random Topic Thursdays, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even doing the intro that I normally just jump in and do. I was running late, so I wanted to come on and hop in. Welcome everyone. Of course, the breaking news that we have for today. I'm Gavin Richard. Welcome to an edition of Gavin Richard Presents Random Topic Thursdays, only on the hottest live stream in the cosmos on YouTube. If you're watching on channel GB2786 or Gavin Richard on Facebook or on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and I'm coming out with you with five. The breaking news today, I'm going to get into our other topics, but of course, the breaking news, as I stated last week, I called it that Hunter Biden was going to be indicted. It was reported initially because that the special counsel was working to indict him on those felony gun charges, and it happened. And let us bring in our brother, as always. He comes on and co-hosts this with me on Thursday nights. Shawn James is the author of books such as The Woman Crisis, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and The Man Crisis, as well as the John Haynes series. So please welcome Shawn James. Welcome, Shawn, again.
How are you, Gavin? I'm good.
I'm doing fine. I was running a little bit late, ladies and gentlemen. I usually come in on time, but I had an event, as you can see, I had to go make an appearance for, and so I hurried home as quick as I can, so I pushed the time up a little bit. And Shawn is here. Shawn, I'll let you do a plug-in a little bit later at the end of the show. But why don't we talk about this, what's going on with Hunter Biden? We talked about this last Thursday, that charges were coming. And those charges, of course, stem from he was originally going to enter a plea deal. But I believe from what was reported, the prosecutors wanted him to plead to some additional charges. They thought it was going to cover everything, but it didn't. And so he was going to have to come back on those charges, and after that, the deal just fell through. So as a result, he has been indicted on felony charges, possession of firearm as a felon, as well as just possession of firearm while he was in the possession of controlled dangerous substances. You know, Hunter Biden, it's no secret, has struggled with drug issues. He's a crackhead. Shawn, from what you've seen, I want to know what your opinion was, because we called this.
Yeah.
And what do you think? How is this going to affect the Dems this year?
Well, I don't know if it'll have any effect on the Blue Party so far, because this is just, again, more political theater as related to the 2024 election. Now, those in the Red Party can use this to say that the Biden administration basically is a corrupt organization and that they went out here and colluded to cover up for Hunter Biden and much of his corruption under the table. So there is something there that they could possibly use against Joe Biden. But I don't really think this is going to go that far, just like I don't think the Donald Trump trials are going to go that far, because white supremacy does not go out here and go after white supremacy, just like Satan doesn't cast out Satan, because the benefits that white supremacy wants for itself on the left are the same ones they want on the right. And because they want the same goodies and giveaways for themselves, they will go out here and make up a ruckus as related to this political theater to demonize one side over the other. But at the end of the day, nobody in white supremacy wants to see a white man getting punished as related to a system of justice. And there is no system of justice here, just a big scam to make it look like they're gonna do something as related to these indictments. But I really don't believe any of these indictments are going to turn into a conviction on either side. And with Hunter Biden, he's basically a guy who's basically covered up by the Biden administration. And if they even acquit him, it may wind up blowing up in their face, where the Red Party uses it to their advantage. But the whole thing is, this is all more political theater, and more political theater meant to try to polarize people into taking sides. But there is no real side for Americans to take, because both sides are corrupt. We're dealing with two wings on the same dirty bird. And what we have here is the left wing going after the right. I mean, the right wing going after the left wing this time, looking to indict Hunter Biden for his known corruption. And I don't really think it's going to go anywhere, because Joker Joe is going to make sure that his crackhead son goes out here and comes out clean to smoke more crack in the future.
Pardon him.
Yeah.
But if he gets pardoned, then the Republicans will have more fire and say, "Oh, you pardoned your son. You said you were going to stay out of it," because Biden's been on record saying, he's not going to get any special treatment.
Yeah, he says that, but we know that they're full of it. I mean, I look at the whole migrant situation. These blue party guys are just as dirty as the red party. Their hands are just as greasy. So I look at this whole thing again, political theater meant to get us our minds off things like the failed migrant policies of the Biden administration, the failure of the border. And as we're sitting here talking about Hunter Biden getting indicted, we're not really looking at the complete failure of Biden's border policy and the fact that his border policy basically has imploded in cities like New York City, and those cities are basically tearing themselves apart as we speak, all due to the ineffective leadership of the Biden administration. I mean, what's happening here is a complete disaster, and what he needs to do is divert our attention from the disaster that he and many of the leftists set up. So what they do is come out here and say, "Oh, Hunter Biden's indicted," but we know nothing's going to come of it, but where our eyes are taken away from the disaster as related to the migrant crisis all across the country.
Yeah, migrant crisis I think, is really what's going to eat the Democratic Party up in the major cities with New York and Chicago. So you think this is just theater from the right?
Yeah, this theater from the right and the left to take your mind off the migrant disaster.
Yeah. By the way, so this was tweeted by our brother Judge Joe Brown. I want you mentioned migrant crisis. I want you to look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Someone put this up on Twitter. Just thinking of this. Thank you, CC. Said looking sharp, sir. Yeah, this is custom suit.
Nice.
Yes, we gotta get Shawn. We gotta get Shawn a custom suit. We're gonna have you shop at Soul Train Fashion, son. You get the Steve Harvey suit.
Uh,
Yes.
I tend to go for Brooks Brothers myself.
What your ass say? I mean, I gotta tell you something. You bloggers, I better not see your ass on the street talking about my girl and now. We cool. Yeah. Did you hear? Shirley Strawberry, my friend. Even if her ass is envious, that's my friend. Did you hear about that too?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, just Shirley Strawberry was doing some jail phone calls with her husband, uh, and she talked about Steve Harvey's house and how Marjorie has all of these nice things, but essentially she said Marjorie treats her and the rest of the co-hosts like the help, like looking down on them.
Well, that's par for the course with Steve Harvey. He treats him and his wife treat everybody like garbage. But what do you expect from the woman who was at the side of a drug dealer?
What do you think? Well, be careful, Shawn. Steve Harvey gonna look for you. He gonna whip your ass when he see you. Gonna make your lips just as big as mine. I'm sick of you damn bloggers and tweeters saying every damn thing about me. Yeah. But let me get back on topic, man. So somebody posted this. So a supplemental order of injunction. This was retweeted by Judge Joe Brown. And basically a supplemental order of injunction, that means they issued an stop because this court out in Texas, Southern District of Texas in Brownsville, they ruled DACA as illegal. Now, this is just so this was entered on September 13th. If you could read it here. This says the court, as it did before, hereby stays the effective order of the vacatur order as to all DACA recipients who received their initial DACA status prior to July 16, 2021. The defendants may continue to administer the program as to those individuals, and that administration may include processing granted DACA renewal applications for those individuals. DHS may continue to accept initial applicants if it so chooses, but it may not grant any. So it says, to be clear, neither this supplemental order of injunction nor the memorandum order that accompanies it requires DHS or the Department of Justice to take any immigration, deportation, or criminal action against any DACA recipient, applicant, or any other individual that would not otherwise be taken. So they're trying to rule this as illegal. But this is a district judge. However, I don't think it has been declared legal. I mean, I think the Supreme Court had already ruled on this.
I
But
thought they did as well.
yeah, but you know, ladies and gentlemen, no law is absolute. Things get overturned, things get brought before the Supreme Court all the time. Look at Roe v. Wade. They've had a lot of cases before the Dalton versus Dobbs case, uh, the Dobbs case, excuse me, versus Jackson Hospital, uh, that have dealt with abortion and whether it was going to be overturned or not. So it they keep doing this stuff, and this is in Texas, so no surprise. Sean, I do have a different question. I wanted you to answer this, but this is a separate topic, but I want you to mention this. So someone, I don't even know who the hell this guy is, but I want to get to this right quick before we get to our next topic. Shout out to my sister Nicole and Juan B. But some dude put out a tweet about why black people were I don't even know who the hell this guy is, but why were people mad at Kamala Harris? Like, what has she done? Plies was talking about it. And a guy by the name of Jason Lee, that's who he is. I've never heard of him. He had this video he put out because he tweeted a video basically about Kamala Harris, showing Kamala Harris dance, and he's asking, why do we hate Kamala Harris? Why do y'all hate her on her so much? And I want you to listen carefully. I gotta be careful with the music.
Look, this past weekend, I went to Vice President's house for the hip hop 50th anniversary of hip hop.
I know who this twit is.
I have no idea who this clown is.
Just listen carefully.
Party at her house, and I took this picture. You've seen it, but it wasn't the picture that I want to talk about. It's the video that's been seen around the world that I took. This video right here. If you've seen it.
That's CeeLo Green in the bottom right there. Simone Sanders. I'm just kidding. That looked like Earthquake right there, the comedian Earthquake, but that's not him.
Here's that video. Now, I shared that video of the vice president. I took that video of the vice president and I posted it in a way that everybody would still not give me credit because I didn't want the credit. What I wanted was for the world to see it. And 20 million views later, it's clear that you have. I've been looking at all the comments over the last couple of days of everybody that's had stuff to say, from white folks to Republicans to black people to white people, about what black people should feel about it. I've been looking at all the comments. And my only question is, why do y'all hate her so much? Why do y'all hate her so much? What has Kamala Harris done to you that's made you hate her so much? She grew up in Oakland, California, which is not an easy city to grow up in.
That's a lie. She did not. She lived in Canada. She moved to Oakland, but she lived some time in Canada, so that's a lie.
The mixed biracial child, which I could tell you is a mixed breed, it ain't easy. She became an attorney. She became a female attorney general in California, working under a Republican administration. She then went on to become a state.
That's another lie when he said she worked as an attorney general under a Republican administration. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the only Republican governor. He was on his way out. When she got in, Jerry Brown was governor, and Jerry Brown was a Democrat. So this guy doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
Senator that we all love because she was in their ass about stuff over there on the Hill, and then got elected as the first female and the first black female vice president of the United States. And somehow she ain't shit. She ain't shit. She locked up all the black men in California. Really? When I read, she's doing nothing for the culture. She's doing nothing for black people.
Yeah, really, she did. She was the attorney general. She marched black people into the streets, those parents, especially on truancy. She marched them all to City Hall and had them locked up. When she was a senator when she was the attorney general of California, let's talk about it. Back in, I think it was around 2008, 2009, when we had the crisis of predatory lenders going at black And I'll even add, and I'm going to even throw in this, black and brown people, because there were Hispanics that were impacted as well, but black people, she supported those banks. See, this is why I don't know Jason Lee. I don't know who the hell he is. I think he's a blogger. That looks like. Yeah. He hosts Hollywood Unlocks Jason Lee. So he's a host for Revolt. All right, well, that says enough. That says enough. These are the fools, ladies and gentlemen. I ain't even playing all the video because I got to move on to other stuff. But these are the fucking fools that they get every year to trot out that will speak for you. To speak for you. And let me play, you know what, in fairness, I'm going to play the whole video because I want you to hear how, I want you to hear this. I'm just even looking at what Sister Nikki tweeted. And I'm going to move on to the next topic. But just listen very carefully, and Shawn, you can respond.
People.
Listen to what he says.
Really? She's bad for the White House. She's taking us backwards. We're gonna vote for Trump. Okay. Really? One. Y'all don't want to eradicate the police department for people giving tickets to you for speeding in the 25-mile zone. You don't get mad at the police, you get mad at the lawmaker because the police didn't make the law that says you can't drive faster in that area. Yet, as Attorney General, for enforcing the 3 strikes law that was created by Pete Wilson, who was a white racist in California, makes her the bad guy. Half of y'all that talk about politics don't vote. The other half don't understand how the law works. And those of you that are talking about the 3 strikes law don't even live in California. So you don't even know how our laws work. Then you say she's not doing enough for the country. She's not the president. She's the vice president. But when you look at what the president is doing, he's done a lot for the country. He just ain't on TV every day talking about it.
Oh, shit. Name something.
Why don't you know? Because their teams aren't communicating the best and we're not paying attention the most. But what I will say is that when I looked at all the commentary of Kamala's dancing at the White House, at the vice president's party, it really disappointed me. There was a lot of great comments, like Black Twitter, a lot of great comments, people saying Auntie Kamala, and this is the Kamala we want to see. And I've told the vice president, I've told her team, this is what people want to see.
Wait a minute. You just went off, he just went off talking about, I got to stop it though for a second, Shawn. He just went off talking about how they're doing great things in the country, but we're not seeing it. But then he's cheering and applauding because people are calling her in the comments Auntie Kamala because she's dancing to Q-tip shit. This vote blue no matter who. This is the stuff, these are Negroes that they put out for you to support at the Democratic Party. Let me just finish, Shawn, and then we gotta.
But it was the racist, white supremacist uprooting of hatred towards a Black woman that I saw from the right, and the complicit behavior of sleep Black folks who were participating in it that disappointed me. Now, as a Black gay entrepreneur, when white people hate on me or tell me I'm not ready or not big enough or this or that or whatever, or they minimize who I am, it is what it is. I take it on the chin and I keep killing it. But when Black hate happens, it hurts more. It hurts more when Black people hate on you. Black folks have an epidemic in its culture and community in the United States that we need to understand, and that is the inferiority complex to white people and whiteness and self-hate in the Black community. Some of y'all niggas don't like Kamala Harris just simply because she's great. Some of y'all niggas talk about you don't like her and don't support her, but you ain't done nothing to research her agenda or what she's doing. The white folks, when they saw her dancing at this party, it was only a 3.5-hour party, by the way, celebrating the global impact of hip hop during its 50th anniversary. The white folks say, why was the border czar partying with the rappers? And then Black folks would have been saying, if she didn't do it, why she ain't acknowledging Black music and the impact it's had on culture? How is Kamala Harris the second most powerful person in the world, yet nothing she does is good enough? Nothing she does is good enough. Everything she does is bad to white folks. And sometimes what she does ain't good enough for blacks. I'm confused. Black people, you need to go look in the mirror and ask you, why do you hate us so much? Why do you hate each other so much? I've never hated on anybody. I may give an opinion. I may be critical of a person's performance or something. I can say I don't like a person, but I respect their work, or I respect their work, but don't like them. I know how to differentiate it, but at least I do my research and pay attention. What are you doing? How is it that the vice president dancing to vibrant, how did that not make you say, damn, she's human? So let me go ahead and look into what she's doing so I can support her a little more. Because those of you saying you don't like Kamala, those of you saying that you don't like Kamala and are going to vote for Trump mean that you don't care about gay rights, you don't care about trans rights, you don't care that they believe that Muslims, or at least Trump believed that Muslims were terrorists, you don't care that women shouldn't have the right to abortion, you don't care about voter rights, you don't care about none of that because your little $300 stimulus that Trump gave you was more important than supporting a black woman to be successful. I'm riding for Kamala. I'm asking all my supporters to do it.
You know, that's the only time he's gonna ride for a woman. He's riding somewhere else.
And I challenge anybody that don't like her to tell me why. Drop it below and let's argue.
Oh, we got
Keep going, Kamala. Woo.
We got a bunch of reasons. Shawn.
Well,
Get in.
I have to shake my head at this bootlick because he is basically a biracial bootlick. And this bootlick is just so detached from reality that he doesn't really understand that people have legitimate reasons for not wanting to like Kamala Harris. And they all relate to the actions she participated in when she was a part of the prosecutor's office and persecuted black people, and how she went out here and when she was a part of the attorney general's office, escalated that persecution of black people in an effort to pander to those white supremacists on the left. So that's the foundation for people not liking Kamala Harris, and the fact that she was a side piece to Willie Brown and basically slept her way to the top. So people have legitimate reasons for not liking Kamala Harris, and this guy basically wants to try to cover it up because he's a biracial bootlick who's more concerned with being able to party with a vice president instead of seeing the impact of her policies on foundational black Americans. And this is one of those biracial types who believes that he can go out here and pass for white and hopes he can, as he passes for white supremacy will give him a pass and not really let him get the N-word moment that he's definitely going to be set up for sooner rather than later. And what he wants to do is go out here and lay cover for KKK Kamala, hoping that if he lays cover for KKK Kamala, she will go out here and give him a pass. So when I'm looking at this bootlick, I just see a clown who thinks that if he goes out here and tries to deny that Kamala Harris did nothing for black people except persecute them, he hopes that he will be able to go get himself a job and some favor. That's what he's hoping to get out of this whole situation. But when I listen to this clown, again, complete denial of reality because he's in biracial land talking about, oh, he went to go out here and be able to party with the vice president, but the vice president did not go out here and take an active effort to improve the quality of life for black people. No, after she slept her way to the top with bootlicking Willie Brown, she went out here and looked to oppress black people in an effort to gain favor from white supremacy. And this bootlick just wants to go along to get along. And what's really disturbing here is he's working for P. Diddy Combs' website, and he's out here showing us that we have no allies from these black bootlicks in Hollywood. And he basically is out here talking in that Hollywood style language that I've run into when in the entertainment industry, where these guys sit here and lie and again tell bold-faced lies and then and because they tell the lies and believe them themselves, these guys will go out here and try to make it look like, oh, Kamala Harris is a victim when she was persecuting black people, and she's done nothing over the term of her almost 2 going on 3 years in the Biden administration for anyone except being a cackling hyena. And as she was a cackling hyena, basically just there to be a placeholder so that Joe Biden can basically stay in office, because she really does not meet the qualifications for being president. Because what happened with her when she ran for president herself, she was the first to quit as related to the race. So he's out here trying to defend her as some sort of black woman, but this so-called black woman never wanted to empower her own people. No, she threw her people under the bus. And if you throw black people under the bus, are we supposed to like you or even respect you? Critical question I would like to ask this clown. If you create policies that persecute black people, how do you think that you're going to go out here and have the audacity to think black people are supposed to approve of you, especially when you are basically showing how incompetent you are as related to your position? Because
I would point out,
most,
to Shawn,
most
interrupt you just quickly. This woman has not, she's also been reported not to even attend her own meetings, reading her own briefs at the, as vice president. So someone that's about to be likely to be step in if something happens to Biden, especially at his age, yes, you better damn sure be on your A game.
Yeah. So she basically doesn't even fit the qualifications for the job. I mean, she's even worse than people say Donald Trump is, because Donald Trump would at least read his briefs and at least take a look at things. But this woman does absolutely nothing. And again, this is the woman, if the president loses his life, is supposed to be running the country, and she's not fit for office. But this bootlick wants me to believe that we're not supposed to criticize this woman. And this is the same type of beta male behavior that I've run into. Oh, whenever these people get into positions of power, you can't criticize them, you can't comment on their behavior. And again, if you put yourself in a position of power, you have a right to be criticized, and you have a right for people to talk about you. And again, if you don't want people talking about you bad, be able to do your job. And again, most black people look at Kamala Harris and they don't see somebody who wants to do a job for us, but somebody who wants to do dirty work for white supremacy. And that's why most black people don't like Kamala Harris.
No, and she's also disingenuous.
Yeah.
She's disingenuous. People just don't trust her, and it's not just because and when you say she's black, her birth certificate reads Caucasian.
Yeah.
Her own father said she was lying when she went on the Breakfast Club talking about how she smoked weed and how we do it in Jamaica. Saying she was never exposed to stuff like that.
No, she was one of these suburban types who basically never experienced any of this.
And she went, and when she lived in the correct this man, she lived in Canada. When she moved back to Oakland, she remember when she went at Joe Biden about being bused as a little girl. She was bused into white schools, so she didn't grow up in Oakland like in the streets and yo, what up, dog? You know,
no,
she didn't go through no gangs and conflicts like that. So get the fuck out of here, man. That's why you don't take no celebrity serious. Yeah, we do our own research, punk. These are nothing. These are the vote blue no matter who. And we gotta go in on these clowns. That's why I did this.
Yeah, we got to go in on these bootlicks, because again, these are bootlicks who are they're not a part of us. They don't want to get tangibles. They want to get their crumbs from the master's table, and after they get their crumbs from the master's table, what they want to do is go out here and lord it over us and have their fiefdom over us as the elite blacks. And if we are really serious about getting tangibles, we really have to go out here and deal with these bootlicks and really go out here and cut these people out of our social circles and let them fall.
I had a video saying how Beyonce tried to dodge Jason Lee back in 2019. So he tried to even get in the Beehive, and Beyonce didn't want him.
He's a bootlick and a clown. Nobody wants him.
Yeah. Dwan B called him, he looks like Kitten Gay. Well, I don't want to get flagged for bullying, but that was a quote I read. That was funny. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thank you, Cheryl Massey, for your donation. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not begging, but as you know, YouTube doesn't sponsor or support this channel. It's not monetized. So if you want to donate to the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, that's always great to help a brother out. So thank you. You see the ticker at the bottom. Let's move on to our next topic, Shawn. So we're talking about Democrats. I call this for a reason. This show has the left lost their mind. Well, what happened, ladies and gentlemen, is that you had the governor of New Mexico. The governor of New Mexico, her name is Michelle. I'm trying to pronounce that middle name. Michelle Lujan Grisham, excuse me. She issued a suspension in Albuquerque, a ban, basically saying no open or concealed carry firearms, and it applied in most public places. She put a ban on. This is her attempt, basically stating the reason she's doing it is to try to cut back on gun violence. And Shawn has already done a video, but for those that don't know what's going on, I'm gonna play a clip here, and I'm gonna comment on what the recent development. So this is what happened here. So this is from CBS News. So let's listen to this.
A number of recent shootings, including one outside a minor league baseball game that killed an 11-year-old boy. The order affects New Mexico's largest city, Albuquerque, and the surrounding county. It suspends the right to open and concealed carry firearms in most public places. In response, some Republican lawmakers are threatening to impeach the governor. Anastasia Bowden joins me now. She is the director of the Cato Institute Center for Constitutional Studies. Thank you so much for being with us. The governor says she has emergency powers. Does she?
No, the Supreme Court has made quite clear that it will only uphold restrictions like this on the right to bear arms if there's some sort of tradition and history of doing so at the time that the Second or the 14th Amendment was ratified. There's almost certainly no history of a broad prohibition like this. And I think what's really telling is that Governor Grisham's own Democratic Attorney General has said that he will not defend this order in a pending lawsuit against her because he doesn't think it's constitutional either. So even though Governor Grisham is undoubtedly going to rely on emergency powers, I think people and politicians on both sides of the aisle are quite sick of things like COVID or Republican presidential nominees calling immigration and fentanyl a crisis that requires sweeping powers. And they're recognizing that the Constitution was meant to prevent this sort of overreach in the name of purported momentary emergencies.
And is there really, if it's not being enforced, does this just go away? If the sheriff isn't going to enforce it and it's only 30 days long, does that kind of end this, or is there some other chapter to this story?
Well, there is already a lawsuit pending. The day after the order came out, a gun rights group, as well as a resident of Albuquerque, filed a lawsuit, and it's pending right now. And if that lawsuit doesn't get any traction within the time, like you said, there are already public officials who are basically nullifying this order because they're saying they're not going to enforce it, not just because it won't do anything for public safety in their view, because it deprives gun owners of self-defense in a admittedly crime-ridden area, but because they don't think it's constitutional. So I think between the nullification aspect or the lawsuit, it is likely to go away. And although it was probably a political ploy, it's really backfiring on the governor.
And by political ploy, it could also have been just a governor at her wit's end, seeing, as you said, there are a number of gun deaths in Albuquerque, and it's a kind of throwing up her hands at a problem that has challenged lawmakers at all levels of government.
Well, certainly there are things that the governor could have done besides just issuing this broad order and declaring an emergency. You know, the Supreme Court itself indicated that there is a history of certain restrictions like bans in sensitive places, restrictions based on age or mental health, or the governor could try to get at the root causes of violence like crime, like mental health, like addiction, making sure that people have educational choice, rolling back restrictions on getting a job, rolling back over criminalization, which ruins families. But she can't just broadly suspend a constitutional right because of a purported emergency. And so that's really what the problem is here.
Anastasia Bowden from the Cato Institute Center for Constitutional Studies. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, what the Supreme Court said in District of Columbia versus Heller, they said that it ruled that the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution protects an individual's right to keep and bear arms, unconnected with service in a militia for traditionally lawful purposes, including self-defense within the home, and that the district, this is going with the District of Columbia, they stated that the ban and requirement that lawfully owned rifles and shotguns be kept unloaded and disassembled or bound by a trigger lock violated that guarantee. Now, they did state that there could be restrictions on guns and gun ownership that were permissible, but you cannot stop. You put a ban. I want y'all to understand this. She put a ban on lawfully possessed gun owners who could carry their guns in public or concealed carry. So if you had a concealed carry permit, by this ban, if you carried your gun, you could be arrested for violating the governor's order. It's an executive order. The sheriff in Albuquerque, New Mexico said he's not going to follow it. You heard the attorney general of the state of New Mexico said they're not going to follow it. Now, what's happened recently, a recent development, ladies and gentlemen, is that the federal judge has basically struck down this ban. They've put a 30-day restraining order on it, which means that they cannot and will not enforce that until they review it in a court proceeding. So I want y'all to see here, because I talked about what the video was, especially what the judge issued. And here's the order.
Tonight, there's a new ruling just in from a federal judge. He says the New Mexico governor is violating constitutional rights with a new ban on the right to publicly carry a firearm in New Mexico's largest city, Albuquerque. CBS's Lana Zach reports on the backlash from both parties.
Hit that like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
In New Mexico, gun culture runs deep, so a temporary ban on where to carry them was bound to cause an uproar.
People are angry.
Mark Abramson is a gun shop owner.
I cannot fathom how this is anything other than an attention getter.
The judge's ruling halts Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's 30-day suspension, barring private citizens from carrying firearms on public property in Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, where violent crime rates are especially high. She cited a public health emergency after 3 children were fatally shot recently, including 11-year-old Froilan Villegas, who was killed outside a ballpark last week.
I have to take a tough, direct stand where basically I'm just ignoring the fact that we lost an 11-year-old. Another child.
Nationally, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens. But the county's Democratic sheriff, John Allen, feels that the governor's act was unconstitutional.
There's not enough law enforcement to go around and enforce this order when we're supposed to be going after criminals on the street and not after law-abiding citizens.
So what are the solutions?
But the solutions is multifaceted. You have red flag laws. You implement with your senators and your representatives other laws that they think might help bring down gun violence.
The Catholic Archbishop for the area has counseled families ravaged by gun violence. He supports the temporary measure.
We have to be courageous. We have to do something about this terrible status quo that we're living with in terms of gun violence.
Nora, this divide doesn't fall along traditional party lines.
I'm Catholic, and I think that Archbishop needs to shut the hell up. Y'all on that. I get ill. Has no credibility.
Many of the most public critics were Democrats. I spoke with the governor's office just moments ago. They plan to be back here in court on October 3rd. The governor says she will never stop fighting. Nora?
It's a really interesting story, Lana.
The one thing nobody is talking about is how can if you are a governor, you swore to uphold the law, the constitutions of your state and also the Constitution of the United States. You're going against the Constitution, lady. Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia. Let's read it, Shawn.
All right.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Why is that a reason, ladies and gentlemen? Why did they have that? Because the founding fathers of this great nation, I know it's debatable of some of us among black people, but you know what I mean. The founding fathers stated that they had fought, obviously, a war with a dictator in King George, and they knew it may come a time when they were gone that their descendants, with this republic that we have, because the United States of America is not a democracy, it's a republic. They realized to keep the republic and to keep freedom, there may come tyrants who will try and attack that. And so it was necessary for the people to bear arms. You don't have to just have a militia. Now, yes, it was when you had the Second Amendment, it wasn't adapted for guns, for duck hunting or food or anything like that, because if you didn't hunt, you didn't eat. It was put in place to protect the American people from tyrannical forces in government. The Second Amendment is about protecting yourself from tyranny. It's not for sport. And when you have a governor make these, and they think they're doing good, first and foremost, even if the only people who would follow this order would be law-abiding citizens. And guess what? They're the ones that would have to pay the price for everything that happens. The criminals are not going to follow what this governor says. They're not listening now. That's a criminal. Now, granted, I have nothing against criminals because without them, I wouldn't have a job. But I'm a law-abiding citizen. And I want to play what this woman said, because this is ridiculous. Listen.
Yes, all the examples you cited are crimes. Kids shooting at other kids, shooting from cars. So what's the value of the civil order? Why not just better law enforcement?
Both. The value of the order is that it gives me three things. One, it says it's a statewide issue and it's a message to everyone to start leveraging your resources and arresting people. Two, the jurisdictions come at this, including with the DOJ restrictions, differently, without the leveraging and the additional resources, arresting, and where do they go? We got to make sure that everyone is bumping up their services. It's a message to the Metropolitan Detention Center. It's a message to the HMOs. You better figure out treatment. We have been sort of stalled out, to your point. This order basically says, stop stalling out, and to your point,
She's all emotion, no logic.
No logic, it's emotion.
I also have to have the ability, I can't arrest everyone. There are literally too many people to arrest. This would allow us.
If someone's got a concealed carry permit in Albuquerque walking down a public street, they're not going to get arrested.
I can make the point that they should be. And this is the point.
Wow.
I'm willing to do anything and everything.
Said they should be arrested? The reporter asked her, listen carefully.
Maybe they should be. And this, I can make the point.
Carry permit in Albuquerque walking down a public street, they're not going to get arrested. I
can make the point that they should be. And this is the point. I'm willing to do anything and everything within a shred of evidence-based effort. Because if you're not horrified that
this is a tyrant.
In any street corner, in too many cities in New Mexico, there is someone with a gun sticking out of their waist or their belt.
Out, New Mexico.
And I'll tell you, if you're a young person, you're not allowed to have a handgun.
Well, it's a crime already.
I got it, but we won't be able to arrest all of them. So imagine, just in a perfect world, if this was upheld, it gives all of these police officers the ability to focus on the real criminals.
Last follow-up.
Yeah.
She makes no sense.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are
Bullshit.
restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions
Bullshit.
on my freedoms.
Bullshit.
In this emergency,
All of these are emotional arguments.
No,
and all these
No.
parents who have lost all these children,
no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Absolutely not. The Bill of Rights, that's their nickname. The first 10 amendments, they're called the Bill of Rights just in their name for a reason. They are rights. They are not to be the Second Amendment is the only amendment that says shall not be infringed for a reason.
they deserve my attention
No.
to have the debate
No.
about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute, you're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it, but again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
Madam Governor, do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No. But here's what I do think. It's a pretty resounding message.
All feelings. All feelings. No logic.
Oh, bullshit. Let's call it, it's bullshit. Bullshit. How can this, she said no right in the Constitution is absolute. So how does she feel about the civil right, the 14th Amendment? What about the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery or put an exception? The first 10 amendments deal with the Bill of Rights. Those were the ones that were ratified in 1791, but the other amendments, of course, came afterwards. And yes, you had some amendments that got revoked. The one amendment that was revoked that put prohibition, that limited prohibition, that instituted prohibition, but then they repealed it, right?
Yep.
Because people wanted to drink. This is why the Democrats are going to lose in 2024. They have become tyrannical. Governors like her, you know, these are the same people, and let's just bring it back to the immigration thing too, right quick, Shawn, if we can. These governors, remember, especially with President Biden, he supported, you know, obviously overturning the stuff that Trump had, like DACA, allowing illegal immigrants to just come into this country with no checks, no backgrounds, just come in willy-nilly, just if they said they're trying to pursue the American dream or be a dreamer. And this was done all during the COVID pandemic. And yet at the same time, they had rules, regulations preventing people from having gatherings at a Thanksgiving party. Let's not forget that. Am I right? So, right? New York, California.
Yeah.
All of these liberals, at my hometown of New Orleans to a degree. Yeah. This woman is insane. She's unfit for office. They're going to vote her ass out. They need to impeach her. I'm sorry. She's a tyrant. I know I'm not sorry. I'm standing on my ground. She's a tyrant. This is emotions. This is not logic. Same thing when the Archbishop spoke. I get he's trying to defend life and so forth, but life doesn't end by banning a gun. Jesus, even Jesus, when he was about to be arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Peter drew his sword, Jesus didn't say ban all swords. He told Peter to put his sword down because he knew it was my time to withhold the cup of the Father. It was his time to go. So he knew that's why he did that. But he also said there'd be another time for it. This is insane. Go ahead, Shawn.
Well, this woman basically has shown that she is unfit for office with her knee jerk reaction to trying to stop gun violence because this executive order makes no logical sense and basically violates her oath that she took to preserve the Constitution of New Mexico and the United States Constitution. And as this woman has gone out here and went out here and betrayed her office and the oath that she took, she basically went out here and did this all based on her unilateral decision to so called ban legal gun owners for 30 days, saying that this is going to stop gun violence when this whole argument makes no logical sense because most of the criminals are not the ones using legal guns. No, they are the ones using illegal guns. So, how is this going to stop crime in any way, shape, or form? Now, this woman continues to go on with her emotional and irrational argument, trying to find justification for it, but she cannot find any justification because we are a nation of laws, not emotions. And as a nation of laws, a governor is hired to preserve the Constitution as part of the executive branch, and her job is to go out here and enforce the laws that are made by the legislature, not go out here and make laws because it's the legislature's job to make laws. And she's abused her office with this executive order, which she unilaterally made. And this basically, again, mirrors what Bill de Blasio did here in New York with those vaccine mandates. Again, we have politicians looking to go out here and create policy, not looking to follow and enforce the laws that are passed by a legislature. And again, the blue party is abusing its power and participating in tyrannical behavior. And this behavior by Lujan Grisham is tyrannical at the most. And again, this woman is again unfit for office. And New Mexicans really need to take a serious look at impeaching this woman because she's violated her oath to them. She's violated the Constitution of New Mexico and the Constitution of the United States because no governor has a right to go out here and unilaterally decide that she is going to make a 30-day statement to go out here and say, oh, all guns are banned, like some sort of Karen mother who's going to say, oh, all guns that are legal are banned. Again, you cannot do that to legal gun owners. And thank God there were people like the Attorney General and the Sheriff who said they would not enforce this policy. And they also said they weren't going to enforce this policy because they would be liable in this situation. And again, law enforcement has too much to do to stop crime. And this is not going to stop crime going after legal gun owners because legal gun owners follow the laws of the state of New Mexico. Legal gun owners follow all of the laws as related to maintaining their firearms, to maintain their concealed carry permits. And legal gun owners are not the ones committing crimes in most of the cases. No, that's the illegal gun owners, and the illegal gun owners are the ones doing all of the shooting because many of the illegal gun owners want to get access to guns illegally because they don't want those guns to be traced back to them. So this whole argument about stopping legal gun owners makes no logical sense, but you can't explain it to a Karen like Lujan Grisham, who is all feelings and not logic. But we have to stand up for our Constitution. And the way people in New Mexico can stand up for their Constitution is like what the sheriff and the attorney general did by standing against her. And what the people of New Mexico need to do now is stand against this woman, get her impeached, and get her out of office. Because from what I've seen with Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams, these abuses of power will escalate unless we, the people, set a boundary for how we are governed. Because again, it's we the people, who pick these politicians, and it's we, the people, who have to hold this woman accountable by giving her the boot out of office and let her know that tyrants are not tolerated in the United States of America.
Yeah, she's got to go. This is tyrannical when you say stuff like this. What's up, Frank Nitty? What's up, Computer Robots? Computer Robots said, looks like some people are not traveling to New Mexico at this point. He also says, well, Gavin, Shawn, and possibly the chat are lucky they are not living in New Mexico. Shawn lives in New York, which
Yeah.
is, they have, I live in New Orleans in Louisiana, thank God. Now, New Orleans itself is Democratic and very liberal, but it's still part of Louisiana, which is a, very conservative state, and they're all about their gun rights here in Louisiana. But in New York, not so much, from what I've gathered.
Yeah. People don't want gun law. They don't want concealed carry here, but if we had it, it would be a whole different city. And I believe we do need concealed carry because that would curb a lot of the Pookies and Ray Rays from acting a fool and many of the other assorted criminals from thinking about doing something. We really do need concealed carry because that would, again, be an equalizer to dealing with a lot of the crime that has gone crazy here over the last couple of years under Democratic mayors like Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams.
Right. Well, y'all hit that like, share, and subscribe button, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about it. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, I'm going to talk about this too. We got Thoughts Are Us going on. Did you see the VMAs? I want to talk about that right quick.
No, I haven't seen it.
Well, the VMAs, I watched some of it, and I usually watch it just because I'm in music to keep in touch and stuff. But most of the times, as I've stated, I watched part of it and then I had to turn it off. Music videos in particular are not the same as it was when we were coming up as kids in the 90s, even in the 80s, especially after Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, as you know, he elevated the game of entertainment and especially how to make movies. He made what he called short films, not music videos with all of it, because there was a storyline in it. When you had music videos, you just stood in front and you played an instrument and you lip sync. He didn't do that. And MTV had their VMAs, and really it played, they said they got a 37% increase from last year, but Shawn, it was only 897 people that watched it. It wasn't that high. Now they're saying they brought in 3.9 million viewers. That's not what I saw earlier. So what I saw earlier, there was a 37% increase. So what they say it was like the year before, today's VMAs were watched by 3.9 billion people across MTV, Comedy Central, Paramount Network, TV Land, Country Music Television, MTV2, Logo, Pop TV, Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, VH1, BT Her, Univision, and Univaz. And viewership on MTV alone was 37%, with 865,000 viewers compared to the last year's 630,000. So they put it all on, and they got adults between 18 and 49, that demographic. Now, what you notice here, Paramount Global, I want to pay attention to this. So they own all of these networks here, right? So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, at least 13 different networks. And you put it all on that same thing. Of course, you have multiple people watching it. But when you had it on MTV, you didn't need to put it on BET or Paramount Network. I'm talking about back in the day. It was completely different, right?
Yep.
If you get a bunch of people watching one network, it would have been that. They couldn't. And one of the things I noticed, it was basically the white, it was, I want to say, kind of the white version of the BET Awards. It was trash. I didn't really care. It wasn't that popular, like talking about it. And they had people like Sukihana come out, and this is what they put on the red carpet. This is what she did. She turned the red carpet into Magic City. Now, I can't play the whole video. I can play the video, but I can't play the music. But this is what they did. So she's on a red carpet, starting it up. This is what they promote. So they knew what they were doing when they go. They know what they're doing when they go to Sukiana.
I ain't never heard that my coochie stink.
Sexy Red. That's Sexy Red. That's another one. So this is the song they did. I don't know what this video is called. It should be called STD.
I feel like I need a shot of penicillin just watching it.
It's gonna fuck me up because I'm allergic. I need some other medication. This is what they promote, guys. I'm starting to see why a lot of the older generation was shaming hip hop. Like as a kid, you didn't understand it, but now, because to be honest, we didn't see too much of this as kids, even with hip hop. The people you saw were like the 2 Live Crews, or that did the sex thing. If you saw gangster rap, it was from NWA. But we didn't see too much of this stuff. A lot like this. Ugh. But you want to comment on the VMAs and hip hop right quick? You can.
I don't know what that was, but that has nothing to do with music videos. That has nothing to do with art. I mean, when I think of the late Michael Jackson, what he did with his short films, I mean, he brought artistry and craft to this. I mean, what they presented in the MTV VMAs was stuff that I would see in a porn movie or in a porn video. I mean, there was no difference between these these VMA entertainers and porn stars. I mean, I felt like I was watching the scene of the opening of the AVN Adult Video News Awards. I mean, these are porn stars. I mean, the way they're behaving is the same sleazy way that some porn stars behave. I mean, this is no class whatsoever. I mean, just absolutely disgusting.
Porn stars don't act like this in public. I haven't seen porn stars do this.
Well, I'm talking about on set. This is what they would do on set. This is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, they don't even act like this at the AVNs. I mean, that's how bad it is. I mean, this is just absolute garbage, complete debauchery, just absolute perversion. And again, fits the white supremacist narrative for black women because they believe that black women are nothing but Jezebels.
Stand up! Stand up!
I mean, this is just filth. And again, this is why I'm glad I don't watch MTV. I mean, anything at all as related to so-called music, because what they call music is absolute garbage. I mean, this is not about creating a sound or creating a rhythm or a melody or a message. This is just, again, just complete perversion. I mean, this is just perversion and debauchery. I mean, this stuff, if we put it
on my computer, I'm gonna put all over it. Shit.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you see on Pornhub and Spank Bang and X Videos and X Hamster. I mean, this kind of content would be at home right there. I mean, that's how disgusting this content is. And even there, I think that those websites would say, hey, we've got standards. We don't even want this stuff on here. And again, just absolutely disgusting, absolutely revolting. And it just is a complete degradation of the black female image. I mean, I miss the days of sophisticated ladies and really class sisters. And it's sad to see that the black woman's image has been tarnished by this type of filthy image. And again, this is just black women's image just taken straight to the sewer. And this is everything that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, about how you can't tell the difference between a prostitute and a woman because feminist indoctrination has just basically turned them into prostitutes at this point. And this is just absolutely just makes me sick to watch this. And again, this wasn't an award show. This was just pornography. and it's just pornography that's mainstreamed for with the black woman being the face of it. And it's just an embarrassment to see our sisters taken to this level of debauchery.
I have no clue when MTV last time played a music video. I don't
They
even.
haven't played a music video since 1992.
I think it may have been a little. We'll give it a little bit further than that because remember Michael Jackson is still alive. So
Yeah.
But and they changed the name of that award too. It used to be the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award, and because of those allegations by those sissies, they changed that.
Michael Jackson was a class act, and this is just
So was his sister. Yeah,
Yeah.
Janet made great music. That's disgusting. All right. Yeah, he went to the teen pregnancy shows. All right. Last topic. Let's talk about it, Shawn. $90 million coach by the name of Mel Tucker. He is the coach of the Michigan Spartans, Michigan State. This man was one of the most sought after coaches in college football. I mean, they threw money, Michigan State Spartans, they threw money at Mel Tucker. So what you have that happened is that Mel Tucker is accused of sexually harassing a woman by the name of Brenda Tracy, who happens to be a rape survivor, as she describes, and she was a consultant for schools, basically on how they should handle sexual violence on college campuses. So this is a picture of her, and Tucker, as a result of the allegations, has been suspended without pay this past Sunday following a report that was published by the USA Today that details allegations Tracy made against Tucker. Now, Tucker, let me just rewind it. What she's basically saying is that Tucker has been delaying the investigative process since the beginning. He can't afford to go to a hearing that determines credibility of the participating parties. I believe this statement is his way of getting out of the participating in the hearing. October 5th and 6th I will be present for the hearing and make myself available for cross-examination by his attorney, Jennifer Belleville. I invite him to do the same. Now, her name got leaked, and she was up, and she was obviously, I would like to offer some context. She said, from the moment of filing my formal complaint against Coach Tucker in December of 2022, my focus has been to navigate and complete the school process without the involvement of the public and media. And so let me explain this to you all. This process that they're doing is a Title IX inquiry. I've heard of these. This is not a trial. She's not made a civil complaint, i.e. a trial, to take Coach Tucker to court to sue him. So this is not a court of law. What you have are these administrative hearings, especially that was set up by the Obama administration, where if an allegation of assault of any kind was made against a male by a woman, the person actually, I'm talking about on college campuses, you can be suspended without due process. You don't even have to, it doesn't even have to be proven, but just by the accusation alone was enough to kick you out. So she's saying that this stuff happened to her. She made a complaint. And I believe what they're stating exactly is that he alleged to have shown a picture of himself. He's accused of making unwanted sexual comments and masturbating during a phone call with Brenda Tracy. But I've also heard, now he also not recanted, but he rebutted and stated the following. That they had a consensual relationship. And at that time, now Tucker is married, but at that time, he was separated, I believe, from his wife. Now, he has a problem with, he's been delaying it because He says the proceedings initiated by Ms. Tracy are devoid of any semblance of fairness for any matter of this importance, and the university's hearing scheduled for October 5th and 6th is so flawed that there's no opportunity for the truth to come out. So he alleges that they engaged in an intimate adult relationship that started out as a friendship from the summer of 2021 because he supported her mission of sexual misconduct prevention. Okay. And he says he engaged in calls, and some of the calls were intimate. And he even said she sent sexy pictures to him and so forth, and what she would do. And all of this. Now, the point, he admitted during the investigation, he claims Ms. Tracy admitted requesting and accepting expensive gifts, athletic shoes, a $200 Venmo payment, and a contribution to her nonprofit. She also had to provide me her shoe size and address to receive the shoes and her Venmo ID. And he had intimate conversations with her. And to be fair, they don't live, what he's saying is that it was a mutual private event between two adults living at opposite ends of the country. Now, what I would like to say about this is that this man who is set to, has made $90 million, Shawn, his contract was huge. He was a sought after with Michigan State. They loved him. Now, because of these allegations, whether they're true or not, everything he worked for to accomplish is being erased. I mean, they want him out. And he hasn't even been convicted of anything. His head coaching record, his annual salary is $9.5 million. This contract is 10 years. It's the third largest contract ever given to a football coach at a public university. By the way, he was a defensive back coach for LSU. He played some time in college. He played for Wisconsin. So I want to go to this video right quick on Mel Tucker. And Shawn, I'm going to get your opinion. There's a lot we're learning about this. So I'm going to click on this. Hold on. This is
Title IX. Okay, first of all, Title IX is a federal law to prevent sex discrimination in education. And so we have to take a look at what did Mel Tucker actually do, and does that fall within Title IX? And we have to also take a look at what Michigan State University's policy is. So some of the questions really, basically, can Brenda Tracy, the person making the acquisition, what can she gain out of this? Can she get money? And of course, can Mel Tucker lose his job and forfeit that $80 million? I talked to an employment attorney who also specializes in Title IX, Deborah Gordon. Here's what she had to say.
Case is about, my opinion, a very high profile guy who, for whatever reason, she wanted to come after, and she did it.
Title IX is a federal law that prevents discrimination, including sexual harassment. But MSU lumps its Title IX requirements into its sexual harassment policy. Can Brenda Tracy get money from Michigan State because of this?
No.
Why not?
Title IX is set up to ensure that any sex discrimination stops.
What about just suing Michigan State or Mel Tucker in court for sexual harassment? Masturbated
yes,
in his own room.
Okay, I hear you. Do I think there's actually a case to be brought under civil law for that? Sitting here right now, no, I don't think there's enough there.
So now let's focus on Mel Tucker's employment relationship. Could Mel Tucker lose his job by violating the policy. What do you think?
Yes, I do, because the way they have these policies set up, the university has discretion on what the penalty will be.
And the penalty could be Tucker gets fired and forfeits the roughly $80 million remaining on his contract. So, does that mean if you have phone sex, you could lose your job?
If it's the one phone sex incident, and it was not Mel Tucker, it was just an average person on campus, I highly doubt the person would be terminated for
Mel
this.
Tucker's being treated differently?
I don't know. We'll see what they do.
If Mel Tucker got fired for doing what he did, would you represent him and sue him?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I'll tell you, though, it's $80 million. Here's the deal. I think the only person that's going to be sued, or the only entity that's going to be sued here is probably going to be Michigan State. I think so. The issue is whether or not Mel Tucker can lose his job for violating either this Title IX or sexual harassment policy that Michigan State has. And I just read it. It's very loosey-goosey. So phone sex may come into that policy. Is she subject to that policy? Yeah, she can make a claim. She can't get anything. He could lose his job, but then he'll likely sue the school because he'll say that it was it was my own personal issue. She has nothing to do with the school. It's all on my personal consensual
But she was
relationship.
brought to the school to speak on behalf of sexual abuse victims as an advocate, kind of like as a volunteer. Was she on staff?
So what?
But the question is, what was her role at Michigan State?
That's what it was. A one time. She was not an employee. She has no relationship other than one time talking about sexual. Does that rise to the level of a?
So how does she filed this? One time, and she wasn't an employee, so she spoke once. My understanding, she goes around the country and does this.
Sexual harassment. The issue is, can she make a claim? And the answer is yes. Can she get money? The answer is no. So that's the issue for her. Now, remember, she can't, according to Deborah Gordon, she can't sue Michigan State. She can't sue Mel Tucker because not enough. If it was a touching, maybe a different thing, but it's not enough. That's not really the question. The question is, can Mel Tucker lose his job? And the answer is maybe, because of that violation of the policy that he comes under.
Under Title IX, though, wasn't it to qualify? Wasn't it to protect students?
Yes, it was. It was originally, and equality in sports is really when Title IX came to be. However, Michigan State actually expands it a little bit more because they include all sexual harassment. Okay. So it is Title IX, but it's also the sexual harassment policy. But again, what's the remedy here? She makes the complaint. She can do it. The university investigates. The issue is, does Mel Tucker lose his job based on either the policy that they have, and he's got an employment contract, which we didn't even get into too, but he could have violated that. And if he did, he could be fired. Although I believe, and so does Deborah Gordon, that Tucker will sue the university if he's fired. A lot of ways to skin that cat.
And the hearing, we still have a hearing coming up as well, so we'll have to see what comes out there.
And we still have a hearing coming up. And let it rip tomorrow.
We have Let It Rip on Wednesday. We'll be talking about all of this coming up on Wednesday night, a special Let It Rip. Charlie will be there as well. Thank you.
Good stuff.
So this, Shawn, you know what this sounds like? If she can't get any money from it, obviously because it was a phone call, and only thing that can happen to him is he gets fired. It's one of two things. Either he did something he wasn't supposed to do with someone and took advantage of their friendship, or they had a relationship of some sorts and this was mutual and she set him up. I'm tending to lean towards the latter because I just can't see. I can't see if this was a phone call. See, I thought initially from the reports I was reading like Mel Tucker had touched her or did something inappropriate. This was a phone call that they had. Now, I think Mel Tucker, on the other hand, I think he was stupid for messing with somebody, especially if they're a rape survivor and they are someone, obviously that's there to support basically Me Too. I'd be very careful. who I'd be messing with, especially if that is her occupation, is to help me too. Essentially, she's trying to raise awareness of sexual assault victims on campus and how universities handle that. And like you said, a Title IX hearing is not the same. It's not a trial. Shawn, go ahead.
Well, as I see it, if Mel Tucker had took $14 of his $90 million and purchased my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, he wouldn't be in this situation. Because in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, I tell men to avoid situations like this. And I also tell him how to identify female predators like this woman who says she's an activist and a sex crime survivor. And this is the type of woman, when you're on the job, you go out here and follow a protocol when you're dealing with this kind of woman. And with this kind of woman, one.
Sorry, Shawn, but wait, I got to point this out. Hold on. Hold that thought. Look, his wife, Joellen, is a former lawyer. Oh, God. He's going to get taken to the bank.
Yeah. He's a workplace simp.
Go ahead, Shawn. I'm sorry.
Now, he's a workplace simp, and this workplace simp was thinking with the wrong head as he was out here with this white female. And as he was out here with this white female, he couldn't see that this woman was basically sizing him up in an effort to try to get attention for herself and her political cause. So she thought, oh, I'll get out here and talk to this Michigan football coach and turn him into a black brute in order to create a narrative about him to make him into a sexual predator. And again, this man just took the bait because he saw a white female out here paying him some attention. And that's how he wound up in this whole situation where this woman took, I believe, a consensual relationship and revised the story to make it into a sexual harassment case in order to further her agenda as related to her activism. So what she wants to do is use this coach as a springboard to further push her agenda, get those donations up, because getting her name out here in the press, that was her ultimate goal. And what she did was go out here and look at Mel Tucker, see him as a black brute that she could go out here and target, get him caught up in his lust for her, and then use this to go out here and use it to further her own agenda as related to talking about sexual harassment and sexual assault. Again, using the black man, making him the face of sexual predation and furthering her own agenda. And sadly, because Mel Tucker was playing Candyland with this woman, and he couldn't see the chess game this woman was playing, and he couldn't see that this chess game was all about her grabbing a bag for herself at his expense and looking to get that payday at his expense from donations and to further her activism. So this guy basically, he got played. And again, he wouldn't have gotten played had he followed the protocols I talk about in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace. Because in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, I make up the standard telling men that you have to set a boundary for any woman on a job, even if she's a so-called speaker like this woman is. That woman is off limits. And the protocol you have for engaging her is to always make sure that you are recording this woman, one. Two, you always make sure that there's a female employee with you when you're on a workplace so that there's a witness to witness you talking to them. And three, you always make sure you record every conversation you have with this person. And four, you always go out here and document every engagement so there's written records. And if there's a paper trail, this woman doesn't have a leg to stand on when she makes her allegations of sexual harassment, because when you have a paper trail and video recordings of your engagements plus a female witness, this basically creates a platform where this woman has nothing that she can challenge you with and try to revise the narrative on emotions. Because if she gets you alone, what she's going to do is create a he said, she said situation. And in places like these courts or these Title IX situations, what happens is it's her word against yours. And what you need to do to protect your job and protect your bag is go out here and make sure that when you engage a woman, you stay on code. And as you stay on code, you have a protocol for dealing with women in the workplace, especially when you hear this woman is a survivor of a sex crime or a woman who has dealt with sexual harassment. You always vet these women before you even think about meeting up with them. And you always go check out their backgrounds to make sure that you're not dealing with a female predator. Again, when you're dealing with women in the workplace, there's a protocol for dealing with them. And sadly, Mel Tucker wasn't thinking about that protocol. And because he didn't have a protocol and a code for dealing with women in the workplace where he maintained professional distance, this is how he wound up getting caught up, because he didn't set boundaries for himself on the job. And when you don't set boundaries for yourself on the job and you start crossing lines and start thinking about screwing these women, you may screw up your bag. And you don't want to do that. No, you want to protect your bag at all costs. You want to protect your job at all costs. And again, $14 would have saved Mel Tucker over $80 million. And this whole case basically shows me the importance of my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace, because Mel Tucker was a textbook workplace simp who has basically been turned into a trick by this female predator, Brenda Tracy, who has basically gone out here and played Mel Tucker. And as she's played Mel Tucker, he's been turned into a sucker who's lost $90 million as related to his contract, possibly, and may wind up losing half of that contract if his wife decides to divorce him.
And you have to also understand too, Michigan State, even though he has a winning record, is my understanding, and they've been in the conversation, but they've never been to like the national finals or the finals, anything like that, the championships. I'm about the actual like competing with Clemson and Alabama, stuff like that, for some reason. But they've had a winning record under his tenure. He's over 500, and he's been there for 3 seasons. So basically, what they can do, if they want, they could like, and I think this might have been a plan. Who knows? Is this something that was set up, possibly to fire him so they didn't have to pay him the rest of that contract? $80 million left, 86 million. That's a lot of money. Because now they can fire him for cause, for violating their policies. And this is for talking with someone who they said was, yeah, they had a losing season last year. This is someone who he says it was consensual. And it likely was. And they consented to get his ass.
Yep. He wasn't thinking.
He wasn't thinking, but could this have been a setup? It's possible.
Probably.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But that's why you stay on code. That's why you stay on code.
Yeah. And especially you don't mess with some woman who's who's a sexual assault survivor, self-admitted. That means she's triggered. They get triggered, right? So you have a nice day, tell them anything nice or sweet. They'll take that as harassment. Simping. Simping ain't pimping.
Yep.
All right. Shawn, do a plug-in for your book and tell us what your live stream will be about tomorrow.
All right, I'm going to talk about my books. You can get the 2023 SJS Direct books, John Haynes Godbreaker, John Haynes 1987 on Amazon.com, along with many of my other books like Stop Simping in the Workplace. You can get all those books in paperback and digital format on Amazon.com and other online booksellers. And the live stream is up in the air. I believe I'm going to talk about this brick woman and how she manipulated the gender war. I believe that's going to be the topic of tomorrow night's live stream, but that's not set in stone, so you can take it with a grain of salt. I'm still working on what the topic will be.
Yeah. Well, sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, please donate to the Cash App, PayPal, Zelle if you like. I like to be paid for my time. You know, it's not me begging, but please just support the channel if you could. It's always great. Let's see. Also, you can purchase The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus William H. Cosby Jr. available on Amazon Kindle. And that's a good place to buy the book. And subscribe to the Facebook page. All right, Shawn, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
I think I may be off. I'm going to take off next Thursday.
All right.
But I'll let you know.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you. Take care. And this has been another exciting edition of Random Topic Thursdays. And yes, stay on code, please, because when you have stuff like that, that it's hard to break. Especially if you're going to be involved with a woman at work, any kind like that, man, you got to take extra steps to protect yourself. Make sure your phone calls are recorded. Make sure you got witnesses around you. Even if you're estranged from your wife, make sure you just set up code. All right, family. We're going to get out of here. Be one, be safe, be blessed. I'm tired, shit. I'll holla. Peace. Good night, y'all.